Austin.
And Austin and I were both used to be in the military. We were actually in the U.S. Army. Miss Everett asked us to come and talk to you all today about, what is today?
Tuesday.
Veterans Day, right? So we're going to tell you a little bit about Veterans Day. We're going to tell you a little bit about what we did in service. And we're going to ask you a few questions. And do you all have any questions for us? Let me see your hand. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, lots of questions. So at the very end, I'm going to ask you all some questions. All right? And then we'll hopefully be able to come up with some really good answers for you. So, with that being said, does anybody know what Veterans Day is? Let me see your hands. Yes, sir. What do you think Veterans Day is?
When I close the army comes.
So when the Army comes, that's part of it. Anybody else want to help him out? Yes, sir. So definitely the Army's part of it. Okay, one more.
My dad in the army.
He is. Congratulations, that's great. So Veterans Day, or let's kind of take a step back. What is a veteran? A veteran is somebody who has served in one of our armed services. So it's somebody who's kind of served our country in some form or fashion. His dad was in the Army, and you saw the commercial with the Army. Austin and I used to be in the Army. Now that's one of the branches. Does anybody know what the other branches are? What else? Yes, sweetie. Think about the water. Who works on the water? Firemen work with water. And what about the Navy? Has anybody ever heard of the Navy? Yeah, the Navy is another branch of service. Now, let's think about up in the air. What branch of service does stuff up in the air?
Trees.
Trees. Yes, sweetie. What service members work up in the air?
Who flies all the airplanes?
There you go. Pilots, and they're in the Air Force, right? Now, there's one more popular branch of service, and they have the best looking uniforms out there. Yes, sweetie. Who do you think they are?
It's army.
They're kind of like the Army. God, I'll give you a hint. It's called a huge crowd.
Somebody said it over here.
Go ahead and say it a little bit louder. The Marines, right? So the Marines are actually a branch of the Navy, but still they're considered armed services. Yeah, I guess you could throw the Coast Guard in there too. But it's the Coast Guard. So anyway, so Veterans Day, we are actually celebrating everybody that's given their time to go and do a service to our country. Now there's another holiday out there too. Has anybody ever heard of Memorial Day? Now, what do you think the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day is? Because they're a little bit different. Anybody? That's a tough one, isn't it? Yes, sweetie.
I just forgot.
Well, here, let me help you out. So, Veterans Day is honoring everybody who was in the service. Memorial Day is honoring those people who were in the service that didn't come home, that gave their lives either protecting our country or doing something on our country's behalf. So we have a special day to honor them. We usually honor our Now, so I'm going to have Austin tell you a little bit about what he did in the Army, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what I did in the Army. But before we do that, so the young man back here, you said your dad was in the Army. Do you know what your daddy did? What his job was? You don't? Does anybody else have somebody who's in the services, any branch?
I do.
All right, what does your special person do? Do you know? You know what their job was? That's okay. Sweet. I'm sorry, what was the last part? I'm sorry. Oh, she does. Yes, sir. What is your somebody in service?
My uncle's in the army.
Do you know what? Does he drive a tank? Does he? Oh, he does. Okay. Well, the reason I was asking that is that there's a lot of different people in the services, but they all do different jobs. Some people actually, carry guns and they're trained to fight. But then, did you know there's also like veterinarians in the service? And there's doctors and nurses and accountants and all kinds of people that basically support one another. So basically the services are like one big team. Everybody has a job, and they can't do their job unless they get the support of the other teammates. So I'm going to let Austin tell you a little bit about what he did while he was in the Army.
Hey everybody, I'm Austin. I just got out of the Army last week actually. I was in it for 4 years. I lived in Georgia, I lived in Germany for a couple years, and I've actually been in Kentucky for a couple years. But basically all that I do is I did all the fun stuff, shoot guns at bad guys and just blow stuff up. That's what you call an infantryman. That's what me and Jeremy did. Yeah.
So while I was in the Army as well, I was also in the infantry. And I'm going to kind of direct you to our uniforms behind us. If you look at this blue cord right here, the only people in the Army that wear this cord are people who were in the infantry. And that's kind of like our own honor, designating us as kind of the foot soldiers out there. Now, other people have other decorations, but there's some decorations that are the same no matter what job you did in the Army. For instance, we all have nameplates. What you see over here is the citations for the units. So like the units that we were in, if they won special awards for doing things, in either a war or something like that, we got a decoration, we put that on our uniform. But then over on this side, these are just the awards that each individual has earned. So these are my ribbons up here. This badge right here shows that I was trained on helicopters, so I could basically rig up loads underneath helicopters, I could propel out of helicopters, I could fast rope out of helicopters. I was actually a fast rope master, so I could train other people to do that as well. And then this is actually my marksmanship badge. It says that I was an expert marksman. And then over on this side, what you're seeing is, this is a ranger tab, so I went to special training to become a ranger. And this eagle right here, has anybody seen this eagle before? No? Does anybody know the name of this eagle? Or you have? Who knows the name of this eagle by chance, or know what it represents?
I do.
Okay.
American eagle.
It is an American eagle. It's an American bald eagle. The name of this eagle is Old Abe, and this is the patch for the 101st Airborne. That is the Army, or the Army installation that's in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I actually joined the Army to see the world. I'm from Louisville, and I got sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So, it was 2.5 hours down the street. Austin, when he was in the service, he was also stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So if I go move down my sleeve, this is my rank. When I was in the Army, I was a sergeant. And then down, this designation says that I was in the Army for at least 3 years. Every 3 years of service, you get another hatch on your sleeve. If you'll look at Austin's uniform over here, he told you he was in 4 years. I was also in 4 years. Now, Austin was a specialist. So remember I was telling you that there's different jobs in the service? Well, for the different jobs, there's different people of different rank that have different duties. Some people tell people what to do. Some people come up with really good ideas of what you should be doing. And then some people actually have to do the job. So in the services, you have officers, then you have non-commissioned officers, and then you have the lower enlisted soldiers. I wasn't an officer, I was actually a sergeant, so I was in that middle group. I was the one that supervised people to get things done. Austin was a specialist. I would have told Austin what he needed to be doing and whether he was doing it right or wrong. It's kind of like in school, right? You have your principals, who they're the administrators who come up with all the ideas of things that you all should be doing. And then your teachers are kind of like the sergeants. They make sure that you all are doing the right things, and they supervise you. And then you all are kind of like all the enlisted people, right? Underneath. And we all have a job to do that. We're getting back to that whole teamwork aspect. All right? Now, so when your mommies and daddies go to work and they do things, do they dress in special clothes before they leave to go to work in the morning?
No.
Some do. Yeah. So like if they're going to go work in a hospital, they're probably wearing scrubs or a white coat or something. Now, on the weekends, when they're cutting grass and taking you to the movies and doing fun stuff, do they wear the same clothes that they wore to work on the weekend? Different, more comfortable clothes, right? That are more suitable for it. It's the same way in the service. We had different uniforms for different things. Now, Austin's uniform is a lot newer than mine. I was in the Army 10 years ago, so it's been a bit. And since then, they've changed them. But for the most part, when you're in the service, you have two different types of uniforms. You have your dress uniform, and then you have your work uniform. So this is the uniform that I would wear to ceremonies or really special events. And this is the uniform that I would wear to work. You know, because you can see it's lighter weight and it's camouflage. So if I was working out in the woods or I was fighting out in the woods, nobody would see me. This would not be so comfortable to run around the woods, do you think? No? Or maybe, yeah, you would look good, but it wouldn't be very comfortable. Now, since I was since I got out of the Army, they actually changed their uniforms and they upgraded them. This is what Austin's looks like. What is this called again?
It's called universal camo pattern. It's a digital camo, pixelated like a computer screen kind of.
So he can wear this in the woods, or he could wear this in the desert. It blends into both. Now, my uniform, it was set up for the woods. When I went to Afghanistan, I had a completely different uniform. It was more browns and tans because that's what the landscape looked like. So a lot of different uniforms for the jobs. So, with that being said, do you all want to have a little bit of fun with Austin?
Yeah.
Do you all want to see what it looks like to stand as a soldier and kind of do some movement? March? All right, so let's have some fun with Austin. So, normally, as a sergeant, I would have to stand in front of Austin and then tell him what to do. But just because I want you all to be able to see, I'm just going to stand off to the side. I'm going to give him some basic commands, and you know, we'll have some fun with him. We'll see if he still knows what he's supposed to be doing. How's that? Okay. So, as a supervisor, the first thing you do before you tell anybody what they should be doing is you have to come to attention. And attention, you put your feet together and put your hands by your side. Stand straight up. And I would say, attention. And then I'll give him a command. Lift, feet. Did y'all see what he did? You think he did it right?
Yeah.
I do too. About face. About face. Forward, march. March down, march. One, pull. About face. Left face. Present arms. Order arms. Parade rest. At ease. Rest. So I got one last thing that we're going to do. And the reason we're going to do it is because all the services do it. It's something called a push-up. Has anybody ever seen what a push-up looks like? All right. So when you're in the service, it doesn't matter if you're in the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, you do lots and lots and lots of push-ups. And so here in a second, I might have Austin show you what a push-up looks like. And what I'll do is, I'll put him into the push-up position, and I will say down, and then I'll say up. And when he says up, I need you all to count. Okay? We'll see if Austin can give us 100? No. We'll see if Austin can give us 10 good push-ups. What do you think? 10? All right. So the reason I brought up the push-up is to have some fun, but also to, I want to kind of make a comparison for you. So we do push-ups in the Army to make us strong, because a lot of the jobs that we have to do, they require us to be fit, and they require us to have endurance so we can do them for long periods of time. And then also too, you know, have any of you ever made a mistake or got in trouble for something? Yeah, it happens, right? But the trick to it is for us all to learn from our mistakes so we don't do it again. So when you're in the services and you make a mistake, chances are you're going to do lots and lots of push-ups for it. That was kind of like our punishment. And the reason they do that is so, you know, well, like a person like me, a sergeant, I would make my guys do push-ups so they would remember the right thing to do and not do the wrong thing. So, but today we're just going to have fun with Austin. He hasn't done anything wrong. So let's see if Austin can still knock out a few push-ups. So I'll give him some commands. Attention! Half left, face. Front leaning rest position, move. Down, up.
1,
Down,
2,
down,
3,
down,
4,
down,
5,
down,
6,
down,
7, 8.
Oh, I lost track. You think we should start over again?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Go
Recover.
together.
Half right, face. At ease. All right, everybody, let's give Austin a round of applause. I promise I'll have time to answer some of your all's questions, and we Austin will as well. So, who is going to ask me our first question? Yes, sir, in the blue shirt.
My grandpa used to be in the army.
He did. That's great. I forgot to tell you. I'll tell you a really quick. So my dad was actually in the Navy. My uncle was in the Air Force. My grandfather was in the Army. My nephew was in the Army. My father-in-law was in the Navy. Did I leave out anybody? I think that's it. So I had a lot of relatives in the service too. All right, yes, buddy.
My dad used to work in the Navy.
He did. Was he on a boat? Yeah. That's why I went in the Army, because I knew whatever I could get into, or if I got into any trouble, I could always walk out, because I figured I'd be on the land and I wouldn't be out at sea. Yes, sweetie. In the Air Force, or oh, okay. So she had a pretty blue uniform. Yes, sweetie. Yeah. You have a question for us? Oh, really? Maybe they were out talking to people, or were they dressed up in costume? Oh, okay. So maybe like a parade? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Did you guys use a lot of reading and math in the Army?
Oh, yeah.
All kinds.
Could you tell us something that you did that you had to read or do math with?
Guys, sometimes you do a thing, it's called land navigation, and you have a compass and a map, and you have to find things in the woods, and you have to use math to figure out which way to go and add, subtract to get, it's called an azimuth, so use math for that. Well, a whole bunch of other things too.
And not only that, it's not as simple as just getting to where you are on the map. You have to be able to tell other people where you're at on that map. So we would have to know how to use radios, and we would have to use like special instruments to measure the map, and then figure out our grid, and then so that we could radio it back so other people knew where we were at on the map. Other things too, like I told you about how I used to be a fast rope master on a helicopter. I had to read manuals. I had to know as far as what helicopters could support a certain amount of weight, or what pieces could attach to it. I would have to know how to rig up like Humvees and vehicles to hang underneath the helicopters so they can lift off the ground. I would have to, here's something very, very important. Before we would do any missions, I would have to read manuals and read the officer's mission report, and then turn around and come up with my own tactical plan, and then give it to my soldiers. So I had to not only read the reports, but then I had to turn it into a presentation and figure out what we were going to do step by step, and then I would have to assign tasks to other people. Lots of reading and writing. Yes, sir.
Can those two shirts really disguise as trees?
This one not so much, that one.
Here, let's see. Can y'all see him? Does he look like a tree?
No!
Yeah.
In the right environment, they can. You can never fully look like a tree, but you know, I'll tell you, I used to be in a special unit, and I had to wear a ghillie suit. So I would actually put a suit over this, and it had a bunch of nets and twigs and just rags hanging off of it. And whenever I put other limbs and pine needles and stuff in it, I looked exactly like a bush. And the trick is, you don't move real fast.
And I also got a Star Wars T game, and I can play it.
Cool. I like Star Wars.
And it's called The Force Unleashed, and you can fight a Jedi, and then one guy, Darth Sidious guy, fights everyone, and they stabs him, and then everyone turns it into a skeleton electric guy.
Very cool. Okay, let me ask him a question for you, buddy. Where are we at? Yes, sir.
I have
Oh, camouflage? Yeah, I have some other camouflage at home. I go deer hunting, and I do that, and I wear that so the deer can't see me. So it kind of makes me invisible in the woods a little bit. Do you have a question? So he's a veteran today too. So when you go home, you'll have to tell him Happy Veterans Day. Or if anybody else wants to. Eli, you have a question for me?
You ever rewire one?
No, I did not have to do that thing. I saw a few. I just stayed way away from them. Those can be dangerous. Very.
What?
Yes, sir.
When you were in the army, did you have to go out and look for the food?
That's a very, very good question. So while I was in the Army, I did not have to hunt or do any of that. I did get special training on how to survive out in the woods, and if I were to have to hunt. But usually, my meals were given to me. They were called MREs. Has anybody ever heard of what an MRE is? The MRE is an acronym. It stands for Meal Ready to Eat. So basically, it's like does your mommy and daddy fix your lunch for you before you go to school? So what the Army does is they have these pre-packaged meals, and they would give us our meals, and we put them in our backpacks, and then go off and do our job. And then if we ever got a resting point or we got to a safe place, then we'd stop. And do you think everybody sat down and ate at one time? No, because if you were off on the job, we had to protect one another. So one or two people would come back, they would eat, and the rest of us would watch pull security for them. And when they got done, they would go back out, and we would all take turns. Yes, sweetie.
My mom was in the Navy.
Hey, do you know what she did in the Navy? My dad was in the Navy too. He retired from the Navy.
Who went in the place, it looked like a game. Who went in a little room and it looked like a game.
Okay, so she probably worked with computers and maybe did like a technical position. Yes, sweetie. Do you have a question for us? Okay. What's your question, baby? So your father was in the Army, and I couldn't hear the rest of it. I shot a lot of guns while I was in, and my ears do not work very well anymore. Wow. Okay. So that's a very interesting point. Now, when I was talking about the different services, you've got people who are active duty, then you have people who are in the reserves, and then you have some people who are in the National Guard. So you can actually get out of one branch of service and go into another. All right, I think we're coming down to our end. I'll take one last question. One last. Yes, sir. I don't think I've called anybody back there. What's your question, buddy? Now he paints? Well, you know what? Now I'm a salesman. I'm not in the Army anymore. But I sure had a good time while I was in. All right, you all, thank you very much for talking to me today.